Welcome to Student of the Game podcast, where we help you master the fundamentals, fall in love with practice, and win at the game of life. I'm your host, Brad Noll. Welcome to the classroom. Welcome back to another episode of Student of the Game. This is fun. I always get nervous when we have awesome people, and today we got another awesome person, my friend, my teammate, my team member, Kelly Werth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Well, I don't want to take the first 10 minutes and describe your resume, but it's a long one and you're very well accomplished. So I may miss some of these things, but graduated with a telecommunications degree, minoring in meteorology and climatology.
Absolutely.
So most real estate companies don't have a meteorologist on staff, and Kelly's our resident meteorologist. So every time there's clouds or wind, or snow, we usually get a head start on what's happening. You started in radio.
I did.
Is that right? Okay, wonderful radio voice. Obviously, weather girl. That's been fun. Maybe people don't know this. Pageant queen.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Okay. I bet you could wave here for the people who are watching this on YouTube, but you were in a commercial real estate.
I was.
Worked at a
for
bank.
a long time.
Worked at a bank. Residential real estate. How long have you been in residential real estate?
This is my 7th year.
Wow. And then commercial?
In residential. 12.
Oh my goodness. So that's awesome.
Which is crazy because I'm only 29. So
I know. We were going to bring that up later, but a Fort Wayne native.
Born and raised.
Bishop Luers.
Woohoo.
All right.
Yes.
And probably the coolest title you have is mom, wife, and friend. And you're amazing at those.
Thank you. And those are the ones that mean the most to me.
Of course. Well, you joined our team a year ago. So we're celebrating this week. During the recording of this podcast this week, we're celebrating your 1-year anniversary. And I got to tell you, I'm a big team person. I believe in teams. I don't believe individuals win championships. I believe teams win championships. And it's really important to have the right people on the team. And I can tell you that our team has gotten better since you've been a part of it. And today what I want to do is I want to talk about, you kind of bet on yourself a little bit. You've got a ton of experience. I think you're one of the best realtors in Fort Wayne. I think you as a realtor is amazing. And you've had some great experiences, leading up to where you are today. But why don't you talk a little bit about, you betting on yourself and making a transition? You went from kind of managing an office, selling some homes, being at a brokerage that, just dominated the market. But there was probably a difference in philosophy. And so you've made that switch. So why don't you talk a little bit about what betting on yourself looks like and why you're here?
Sure. Well, when I was in commercial real estate, loved it. I loved the negotiation, loved the contracts and all that thing. But then after a couple of years, I kind of realized there's something missing for me. And I missed the people connection because the commercial side of it was so driven by the contracts and you take all the feelings out of it. And so I kind of was at that point where I wanted more out of real estate if I was going to stay in it. And so I had the opportunity to join another team. But I went on to that team, not as a selling agent, but as a lead generation and business division person. So my goal was to help build the company and grow the company, and most importantly, support the team. And I did that through constantly working on lead gen. And as that was transpiring, it kind of led into, well, I could be listing this house, or this is my friend that I'm now, passing it off to another agent. So really quickly, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and get my license back as far as residential, put it in my back pocket. And if I use it, great. If I don't, okay. And quickly after that first year, I realized, okay, this is where I need to be.
You said something. You said lead generation. That was one of the things that you did. And I want to make something very clear for people listening to this. We are all in the lead generation business. If you're a dentist, you got to figure out how to get people in your chair. If you're a body shop, you got to figure out how to get cars that are beat up, to come over to your lot and to your location. Every business that's out there, you are in the lead generation business. Now, the thing that I don't think gets talked about a lot is there's different philosophies in generating leads. You can buy leads, you can cold call, you can connect with people, you can do it relationally, and we choose to run our business relationally. But talk about you have all of this experience in business. Talk about all the places you've been. Has there been a difference in philosophy with lead generation, like how people actually acquire new customers?
Absolutely. When you're in commercial real estate, there's not so much lead gen. Really, they come to you. You have an open spot, they're going to be calling you and you're going to be working with them. When it comes to lead gen, and this is something you and I have talked about as friends for
Hmm.
years and years and years, it's different because in different roles that I've been in, we did the chasing. We heard, oh, my neighbor's going to sell the house and they don't know their neighbor. So there's no connection there. So we go, we knock, we drop off our folder, we drop off our business card, and there's no connection. And so one of the things that was so important to me, as you know, was how here at the Noll team we work on relationships. And I always laugh because I have to keep reminding people in my life when they tell me about somebody selling their house. If they can't make that connection for me, if they don't know their number so I can call them directly, my response to them is, hey, thanks for letting me know that they're going to be selling. I'm going to be thinking about my buyers that I have a relationship with, that house might fit for them, but I'm not going to chase down that lead
Hmm.
because I don't have to. And that's huge for me.
Yeah, I think, and I want to make something really clear. You said because you don't have to, and the reason you don't have to is because you're focused on
Mhm.
building relationships with people who do want to work with you, and that's really
Yep.
where we want to spend our time. That's where it's not just about us living the great life and this good life of working with great people, but it's also about higher outcomes. If we spend all of our
Mhm.
time serving our clients that want to work with us, and then stop chasing those leads, right? The chasing those new deals, chasing the next deal. I think that's the rat race most people get into, is they keep chasing that next deal and that next deal. Well,
Yes.
there's no way you have the capacity to really create the best possible outcomes for your clients. And then that it's a cycle. It just keeps leading to more and more relationships.
Right. Well, and it's a great conversation to have with somebody because, um, you know, because of the relationships, I get referrals.
Hmm.
And so I have that conversation with that referring client that, I'm working with you because, Brad gave me your name.
Hmm.
And I explained to him that my business is built on my reputation, what I do for you. Because at the end of this, if you're pleased with how our transaction went, my communication with you, how we work together, you're going to be the one knocking on doors going, you need to call Kelly.
Hmm.
And so it's a totally different way of thinking of how we do business, but I love it because Brad, it makes it so much easier.
Well, it's the thing that we talk about all the time. It's like when you're chasing leads, the worst day of the year is
Mhm.
January 1st, because you feel like you have to
Mm.
start over. So if you're out there
Right.
right now and you're chasing leads and you're going from one to the next, and you've probably related to this, every January 1st, you have this panic attack of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen this year? And when you work
Right.
relationally, there's a compound effect. You actually get to take all these relationships with you from December 31st to January 1st. You get to take these people with you and keep serving them,
Mhm.
throughout the year, which then creates, more connections. But I want to go back to something for a second. So you joined us a year ago. You've been in the lead generation business for over 2 decades.
Mhm.
Kelly, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I saw you at Mocha Lounge at a coffee shop when you were transitioning from commercial to residential real estate. You were meeting with another brokerage in town. I'll remain
Mhm.
nameless. And I saw you and I thought to myself, I think I know you, because back then, I don't know if our girls were still playing like the youth sports or whatever together. I know they are today,
Mhm.
but it was way back then where I kind of knew you. And I thought to myself, I want to build a team that somebody that awesome would want to work for. And
Really?
yeah, I didn't have the courage to come up to you and talk to you, but I saw you in that coffee shop, and I could tell it was one of those exchanges of like, I don't know if there was recruiting going on or if you were thinking about where to hang your
Mhm.
license, but I don't know if have I ever told you that?
You've never told me that.
Oh my goodness. See what this podcast does? It brings out stories.
I
So,
love it.
um, I want to talk about how much courage did it take? I mean, we've been friends, and that's honestly the
Mhm.
best part. Like, I've never felt like we recruited you. I never felt like you were curious about us. I felt like it was a natural, organic relationship where you got to the point where you wanted to make the change and chase the
Mhm.
relationships and connect with the relationships in your life. And you saw we were doing business the way that you're designed. Talk about
Mhm.
how much courage that took to make that change a year ago.
Well, I'll tell a story because maybe you don't remember this,
Okay.
but About 3, almost 4 years ago, our girls play basketball together.
Mhm.
I was sitting with your wife, but you sat down and asked me how business was going, and it was doing very well. I was doing very, very well. And you said to me, the exact words were, "I'm never going to try to recruit you, but when you come to my team, we're going to rock it."
Oh my
And that was
goodness.
4 years ago that you said that, and that has always stuck with me, and I've always appreciated the fact that as much time as we spend together outside of business hours and things, like, I never felt the pressure
Mhm.
from you to come over here. But to answer your question, as you know, we talked off and on throughout the years, a couple of years up until I decided to make the change, because it was a little scary because I was in a position where I was on salary. Okay. So yeah, we watched the market, but I was still going to get paid every 2 weeks. And so I had the comfort in knowing I was that. I never wanted to be 100% commission.
Mhm.
Never on my radar to do that. But I knew I wanted something more, and I wanted more, a more rewarding position that I could be really proud of. And you and I've talked, a lot in the last year about how coming over and giving up the security of having the salary in place and having some benefits in place over there was so scary for me. But what this has given me by coming over to Noll Team Real Estate is a whole different sense of security, because I kind of got my life back a little bit.
Mm.
I got balance back. I don't feel guilty if I take a day off. I've done 2 college visits in the last week, and I had a team. I had you, that supported me, that could show listings for me, could help me do some things. Our transaction team here. I just felt like I could go and I could be fully engaged with my son that I didn't get to do with my older son. So the when you weigh the two things, like, yes, there's the I've got the salary and that makes me feel good. But now I feel like I have a better balance with my family, most importantly with my faith.
Mhm.
As you know, it's been great to be able to get my health back. I'm a huge walker, as you know, and I love to be able to go out and walk, and I can do that again. And I can do it, and I leave my phone at home, and I'm like, it's going to be okay. I'll come back in 45 minutes, and I might have missed a call, and I might have missed a couple text messages, but being able to be present in what I'm doing is just it's a feeling that I can't describe unless you've been in a situation where you feel, I hate to use the word stuck, but you feel like I have to stay here for a certain reason. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we had a guest on one of our last podcasts, Chris Myers, talked about answering the call.
Mhm.
Like you just completely switch careers. And what you did is you're not switching careers, but you are betting on yourself. And that's what answering the
Mhm.
call is. And you're betting on yourself. And that's the cool part. It's like you don't have to get caught up in, trying to figure out what the right decision is or what the next decision
Mhm.
is. But there's fundamentals, right? And if you just trust the
Right.
fundamentals and you trust the process and all the relationships in your life, like you're a connector. People love you.
Mhm.
Like I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but you've got like the best friend group, the most loyal friend group, and you just do a great job with that. But let's get into mastering the fundamentals. So when you're betting on
Sure.
yourself and you're building a business by relationships, what are the fundamentals? When we talk about fundamentals, okay, if you're a small business owner out there, the fundamentals for us, uh, or our job, another way to say it is our job description. Our job description is to generate
Mhm.
leads, list homes, show homes, and negotiate deals. The realtors on our team. So if you're not on our team and you're not doing that, we feel like you're not optimizing your gifts, and you're not working in a space that creates the highest outcomes for clients. So we'll start there. The way we create the highest outcomes for clients is our realtors on our team generate leads. We do that through relationships. We list homes, we show homes, and we negotiate deals. And then we build a support staff to do everything else. And that everything
Mhm.
else, they're really good at that everything else. And it allows people like Kelly to be amazing and create unbelievable outcomes for your clients. And then they just keep telling more and more people. So, in order to do that, Kelly, what do you think some of the fundamentals are in your business?
Well, for me, I know communication is key.
Hmm.
You could, I think about all the deals I've done through all the years, and I think about which ones stand out as the best and which ones stand out as the worst. And I can always say that the ones that were the best was usually with an agent who is a great communicator. The transaction might have not have gone as we had
Hmm.
wanted, but the fact that we were able to communicate constantly made the whole process so much easier. So I take that into my business, and as a fundamental every day is communication first. I get up, I get my coffee, and I look through my emails. Because I really try, unless I'm in the middle of a negotiation on a deal, I really try to cut off my email about 8 o'clock at night and really disengage so that I can be present with my husband, with my kids, whatever it is that's going on in the evening. I pick it back up between 7 8 in the morning, check all my emails, respond to anybody that needs to be responded to, text messages, follow up. You and I carry around the same book every day. And
Mhm.
I've always at night, when I'm shutting everything down, I put who I need to reach out to in the morning. And so I try to make sure I get those text messages in right away. And then the phone calls.
Mhm.
I'm not a morning person. I don't love calling people at 8. If you want to talk at 10, I'm awesome. But at 8, we'll see how it's going. But I make those calls just to get them out of the way. And the reason I do that every single day is anybody that's in this business knows our business changes on a dime.
Mhm.
And the night before, you can be like, oh, I've got kind of an easy day tomorrow. I've got one showing at 2. And then you wake up to 3 text messages. This house went on the market. Somebody else wants to see this. Hey, can I talk to you? And it just changes. So if you can cross out the communication part right from the get go, then I might have to do follow up as the day goes on. But I feel like I've at least made the connections that I need to do. My clients always know the easiest way to get to me is text. And so if I'm between showings, if I'm between meetings, I'm doing something else, I always check my text messages because I don't like to go more than a couple hours not responding to somebody. But I also want to be present with a client that I'm with. And so I think that I get back to you as quick as I can. But I try to do that. My husband may say I'm not the greatest at getting back to him, but he's kind of during the day, he's kind of like lower on the totem pole. So, but I would say fundamentally wise, communication is my first thing, everything I need to get out first thing in the morning.
Why do you think? And I've seen this firsthand. I think you're a great communicator. I think you're follow. So communication is one part, but follow up is also
Mhm.
part of that communication. That's what you're talking about. I think you're a phenomenal person that
Absolutely.
follows up. But why do you think some people struggle with communication?
Well, I mean, I hear people joke about how they leave their text messages unread for hours and hours on time. But I always, and you've taught me this a lot this last year, is like I always put myself in that person's position. So I might read the text as, oh gosh, that's not that important. But to them, it's everything that day. They need to know that. And so what I try to do is make sure that they know that I've read it, make sure they know either I can answer the question or I can get back to you. And I think that a lot of people, when I find that they have poor communication skills, is not because they don't want to talk to me, but it's mostly they don't know the answer to the question that I'm asking. So instead of just saying, hey, I don't know, let me find out, there's an avoidance, like it will go away. But anybody that knows me, it's not going to go away. I'm going to keep texting you and asking you again and again. But I think a lot of times people just don't have either the answer or they don't have the time, which is kind of sad if you don't have the time to service your business, your clients, other agents. It reflects poorly in our business.
Well, and I think when people get into this business, and I know we've talked about other agents that we've had either good experiences or bad
Hmm.
experiences with, and the ones we've had bad experiences with, it's not because they're a bad agent, they're a bad realtor or a bad person. It's their communication's lousy, and
Right.
there's so many distractions. The speed in this business can be very very fast at times, and so
Yes.
sometimes the speed just is a distraction. And
Hmm.
when you don't understand that communication is a priority, it is a fundamental, you're not going to focus on it. So if you're out there, I mean, there are some businesses where you don't have to communicate a lot with people, but I'm sure you have to communicate with somebody. You have to communicate with, other people in your
Hmm.
industry. In order to move the needle, you have to communicate. I'm a big believer in communication. I believe communication is an exercise in memorization. We talk about that all the time.
Absolutely.
If you don't remember what was just communicated, then shame on me for not remembering, but also shame on the person for delivering kind of a message that's not clear. So I love that.
Absolutely.
You can take communication so many different ways. There's proactive communication, there's
Mhm.
clear communication, but then there's also follow up, which is communication. I don't know if there's one person that's excellent at all of those things. Maybe you're proficient and you're great at being proactive and you're great at the follow up, but maybe you're not
Mhm.
clear in the middle. So I think that's an exercise you could do by yourself. If you're driving in the car, you can go ahead and just think right now, like, hey, maybe I need to be better at the proactive communication, and I'm really good at clear communication,
Mhm.
or vice versa. You talked about time management and organization as a fundamental. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why do you believe that those are fundamentals for you?
Well, I think like in previous roles that I've been in, I've made the business or somebody else a priority. And because I thought it would be selfish for myself to make myself a priority. But what I have found this past year is by making that time management, I talked about working out, maybe it's going to be at 8 in the morning. I hope not, but sometimes it is. Maybe it's 8 at night, which is much better for me. And I can, be awake when I'm doing it. But if I plan my day out that way, I don't feel the crunch that a lot of people do in business. And I don't want to say just in real estate, I think it's in general. But if you keep putting things off, and then what happens is now it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, your title company is going to be closing at 5. You still don't have an answer for this, and everything becomes kind of hectic during that time. And then your communication drops off because you're not able to take the proper amount of time to respond to your client, other agent, your teammate, whoever it is. So really figuring out like what your priorities are for the day, and for me, it's like not pushing it off. Like, okay, I don't have anything in the morning. That doesn't mean I'm going to like just lay around for 3 or 4 hours. I need to get done what I can get done because I'd like to have some time off later in the day. So time management is so important. And the nice thing about our team is the way that our team is set up. It allows me to have that time management better. I mean, I keep saying our transaction coordinator and everybody, it's amazing to me that they can stay on top of these tasks for me. And if they have a question, I don't get back to them right away. It's sitting there. I'm like, okay, got to get back, got to answer that, got to find that out, need to answer that. And that just helps with my whole organization. Not only for the day, but for the week, for the month, for our quarters when we're talking about our goals.
I can't help but think like when you talk about time management organization, I think of like efficiencies. I remember as
Hmm.
a young parent carry around like the car seat, and we had one child. We literally had no free time at all. Right. And
Yeah.
it's like, and now I look at parents with one child, and to know like what my schedule's like during the day or your schedule. And it's like, they have no idea what,
Not a
what
clue.
time management
Yeah.
means, and then you go from like one to two kids, and then it's like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to juggle? And then for, both of us, we have three kids. And so it's like,
Hmm.
then you start to juggle different phases, different schools.
Oh
And,
my
and,
goodness.
and if
Yeah.
you could go back in time and like give advice to that young parent that had one child that just thought like there was no time in the day to get anything done, I think that's almost like a good, snapshot of the evolution of what happens. Like
Hmm.
it's probably hard right now, Kelly, for you to think, and a lot of people think this, like if I were just to say, hey, what would your life look like if your business doubled?
Hmm.
And if you think about that, what would my life look like if my business doubled? And most people, what they'll do is they'll go straight to, well, that's twice as much work.
Hmm.
Well, no, because your time management will get better, your decisions will get
Right.
better, your organization will get better, your communication will get better. It's no different than being a parent and going from one to two or to three kids. That's how it works in business. You will evolve and get better. And I've I'm not joking when I say this, but I know I've been throwing this around that I really think within 5 years you're going to double your business. And I'm half tempted to say it could be sooner, but I don't want to scare you.
Hmm.
Like I really believe that because you have now adopted this mindset. Your communication has always been strong. Your follow up has always been strong. Your time management, your organization, you're super professional. I think you're one of the best realtors in our marketplace. And so
Thank
now
you.
you're welcome. And now to see like everything that you've done in your life, like your resume leading up to here, and now it's like you have these tools to believe in yourself, to bet on yourself, and to know that this is
Hmm.
all about relationships, which is a superpower of yours. There's no way you're not going to double your business. And so I hope the listener hears themselves in what I'm saying, but I'm actually just talking to you, Kelly, where it's like, it's like, remember when you were that mom and had that, your oldest and one child, and you thought you couldn't, there's no more time in the day to get anything done. And now look at you, right? Successful family, successful business. It's just going to keep going. And if you're listening right now and you're in that position, maybe you have one kid and you think like, I can't wait until they get out of the house. Don't wish that too soon, but the reality
No.
but the reality is you can take on a lot more. Your capacity will grow, and because we have these job descriptions, build
Mhm.
relationships, list homes, show homes, negotiate deals. And because we've built a good team around us to take care of everything else for our clients, not only are our clients having better outcomes, but Kelly, you just mentioned you personally are having better outcomes. Your health is better, your
Absolutely.
spiritual life, your family life, like all of these things are benefiting from working relationally.
Think that's part of when you talk about success.
Hmm.
You and I had this conversation just yesterday about somebody asking who's had their best year ever,
Hmm.
and so many people immediately go to that's based on money, how much
Hmm.
money I made, how
Yeah.
many transactions that I did. I had a great year last year.
Hmm.
It wasn't my best. Right in the middle of it, I transferred over here, but I honestly can say I had the best year because I had a summer at the lake. I haven't been able to go up, enjoy, disconnect, and fully engage with my family, my friends, and everybody at the lake. I got to do things last fall, big Christmas time, spring break, all these things that I was able to finally put the computer away, put the phone down. Not entirely, because I'll never be able to do that, but I feel like I had my best year based on the things you just said. I got to re-engage with my faith. I was like very present with that, and I made some goals for myself that I was able to achieve. I spent so much more time with my family, and I didn't feel guilty about it. I mean, what's going on right now. We have 4 or 5 nights a week that we have activities with our kids in school, and I'm happy to be there, and they're happy that I'm there.
Hmm.
But my relationships with friends, I don't feel so exhausted, and by the time the weekend comes along, that I can't do something. I want to do something, and it's because of the support that I have of our team here.
Timeout. Student of the Game is brought to you by Noll Team Real Estate. Our mission is to eradicate mediocre real estate transactions. On your largest financial purchase, you shouldn't have to deal with average. We do this by helping you save time, reduce your stress, and helping you keep as much money in your pocket as we can. You can help us out by introducing us to your friends or family who want to make confident real estate decisions, whether buying, selling, building, or investing. At Noll Team Real Estate, we are connected to a group of realtors who sell 1 in every 8 homes in North America. If you know someone moving out of your area, there's a great chance we can connect them to somebody we know, like, and trust. Remember, relationships win. Now back to the show. I just
Mhm.
heard, I think it was Nick Saban on a
Mhm.
video. He just retired from one of the most historic college coaching careers. But Nick Saban said, one of the problems with today's athletes is that people are focused on the outcomes. They're focused on the wins,
Mhm.
they're focused on their points, they're focused on their stats. And what you're talking about right now is we are in an industry that focuses on outcomes. What's your production? What's your
Right.
sales volume? What's your GCI? What's like all of these stats, and rightfully so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you make that the sole focus, like
Mhm.
that's where we I think get it wrong. And falling in love with practice, like Nick Saban says, is like people fall in love with the outcomes. They need to fall in love with the process. And when you fall in love with the process, that's the thing that I think will ignite people's careers. It will ignite their talents. You talked about the process. You're spending time. You're spending more time in the relationships, and you're going to experience this business growth and this business success. Talk about taking that risk. I know you brought up a couple times. You didn't want to go 100% commission. You didn't want to go 100.
Mhm.
Everything you get is up to you right now. and
Right.
and so talk about the risk, and then how have you fallen in love with betting on yourself? How have you fallen in love with understanding that that's really not a risk? It's more of a risk when you stop growing.
100%. And isn't that something you say all the time? Grow constantly?
That's it. That's a core value.
Yeah.
And and
Yep.
and
It
and when
absolutely
and
is.
when you hear that for the first time, a lot of people think grow constantly. When you hear it for the first times, I'm not good enough, and that's not what it
Mhm.
means. Grow
No.
grow constantly has nothing to do with you're not good enough. Grow constantly means what's your potential. Like
Mhm.
let's try to get that.
Right.
And I think when you're trying to reach for your potential, that's where that's where life is fun. That's where fulfillment happens. I think burnout happens when people are focused on the outcomes. I think burnout happens when you're focused on your sales, focused on your numbers. We talk about all the time. Yesterday our conversation with youth sports. It's like I don't want to
Mhm.
get caught up in is my kid winning and is my kid scoring. I want to get caught up in
Right.
does my child love to practice? Does my child get excited when their team has success? Does my child get
Mhm.
excited when one of their teammates is having success? That's
Right.
that's where the magic happens. Talk a little bit more about the behind the scenes of what you do every day, and how, you've fallen in love with making these connections that we talk about.
Sure. Well, with the grow constantly, I think it's something, a philosophy that we all talk about, but I've really lived it this last year because we talk about it so much on our team. And when you stop growing is when you stop building your business, and it's when you stop evolving in this ever-ending changing business that we are in, which is real estate. You know, you and I both absolutely love women's basketball, and um, Caitlin Clark had an interview just 2 days ago, and my daughter and I sat and watched it. And it was interesting because she talked about all the things she wanted to work on and get better at Indiana Fever. And I looked at my daughter and I said, "Isn't that great? Like she's one of the goats, and here she is. Like, okay, this is what I need to do better. Or this is what I need to work on. This is what I plan on spending more time on." So for me, with being over here and with the change and everything, is I'm constantly having to learn. And I tell you that all the time. I tell that to people on my team because we have such an amazing group of people on our team that I pick up the phone all the time and I call each person for different reasons, because the knowledge that we have, it's because we're not resting on our laurels and saying, well, I'm a great agent. I'm good.
Hmm.
I'm good. You know, no, it's, we constantly want to learn and be better and know more and be the experts in the field. And so for me, having that confidence of, oh my goodness, it might be 3, 4 weeks before I see another paycheck, which is what held me back to where I was. I was too afraid to bet on myself. I was afraid of, well, what does my lifestyle look like if I go without, you know, a paycheck for a period of time. Once I started the process here, you know, the first quarter was kind of just, oh, I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. The second quarter, I'm like, okay, I'm here, but I still feel like a guest type of thing. But I'm learning the processes. I'm learning our values. I'm learning how to grow my business. I'm learning how to deepen my relationships. As you know, I've been reaching back out to clients I haven't talked to since closing day 2 and 3 years ago. And that was like totally out of Kelly's comfort zone, because I'm like, hey, you know, like, sorry, I haven't talked to you for a couple of years, you know, but
What
I know we
what
had a great
what
relationship.
reaction? Yeah, what did go a little deeper there.
Oh my
What
goodness.
reaction did people give when you're reaching out to them?
They were so excited to hear from me, and everybody wanted to know about the kids. And, you know, they had followed me on Facebook and they knew I had made a change as far as my team, and wanted to know how things were going. Like, they genuinely cared about me, and vice versa. Like, I wanted to hear, like, how's the granddaughter? Last time we talked, your daughter was pregnant, and I'd love to hear. And they're like, now she's 2. And it was great getting back into those relationships, because it has led to a couple deals for me
Mhm.
this year. I just came off my first best quarter ever since I've been in residential. And when I'm looking at where the resources were for all my clients, they almost all came from referring other clients.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about betting on myself, it's the fact that I now have the confidence that everything's going to work out. I have a plan in place. You talked about the January 1st, where, oh my goodness, like, I'm starting at zero again, and how does this work? I never thought about January as zero, because I was planning for it in November. I was planning for January. And as you know, I had closings in January.
Mhm.
So it's the whole new way of thinking of how you do business. But it's trusting in yourself and your abilities. It's not always easy. You have to have a game plan all the time. Yes, there's times where you can say, hey, I want to relax a little bit during the summer, but you plan really hard then for the first 5 months out of the year and the last 5 months of the year to take those 2 months in between, take a little bit of a break. But it's constantly growing yourself, your business, the knowledge of the business. We have a lot of big changes coming, in the real estate field this summer, and I feel I feel so prepared for it, and I feel like we are leaps and bounds ahead of most people in our field with how we are prepared for it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds, but you said you were at a closing, a couple weeks ago, and the other realtor on the other
Mhm.
end didn't even know, anything about what was happening. And
No.
we've already got presentations, and we've already communicated and done podcasts on it. And it's like, like,
Mhm.
we want to educate our people because it is about relationships. And if you've heard 0 podcasts is your first one listening, we believe relationships win. And if you've heard them all, then
Absolutely.
don't ever get tired of that, because that's what we believe is relationships win. What I find interesting is, and I don't want to coach. Okay. I do actually, let me back up. I actually do want to coach. But I want to share Kelly's story because that's going to benefit people, but I also want to make sure we get some application in here. So here's what we believe. We believe that the majority of salespeople go out and look for sales. And that's not wrong,
Mhm.
right? That's not wrong. The majority of salespeople go out and look for sales. They look for leads, they look for sales. We believe that we're going to turn that on its head. We want to connect with people. We want that human to human interaction. We want a life that's fulfilling. We want to be if
Mhm.
relationships win, then all relationships win. Not just the relationships where we're getting something out of it. All relationships,
Right.
right? I want to have a great relationship with my brother-in-law. I want to have a great relationship with my neighbors. I want to have a great relationship with people I go to church with. I want to have a great relationship with the parents on my kids' teams. Like, relationships win, not selfish relationships win. It's relationships. And so
Mhm.
what we believe, okay, so if you want to write this down or make a note in your phone, here's what we believe. We believe that our number one responsibility is to connect with other people, to connect.
Mhm.
The connections we make will lead to conversations.
Mhm.
Those conversations might lead to an introduction of somebody going through a lifestyle change that needs to make a housing change. And when
Right.
that happens, then that leads to a sale. But none of that can happen if we don't make connections, genuine connections. Relationships win, not selfish relationships win. I don't want to be the
Mhm.
person at the grocery store that I run into somebody and say, "Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to sell a house?"
Right.
Or
Right.
whatever business you're in. You don't want to be pitching all day long. Humans want and need and desire to connect. That's how
Absolutely.
that's how we do it. And now that you have it, you're talking about all the outcomes that you're experiencing. You had your best first quarter ever. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? You're going to say that again next year because it's a compounding effect. And I hope that you say
Mhm.
next year is your best first quarter ever. The other thing to keep in mind is we talk about goals and outcomes. One of the things that we want to make sure we highlight is that when you're focusing on your goals, you're moving forward. Okay. When you're
Right.
focusing on your past, you're moving backwards. So here's what Kelly and I talk about, and I want you to hear this. You need to compare it to your past. You need to compare it to another quarter. You need to say, this is my best first quarter ever. However, don't get caught up in that. What we want you
Mhm.
to do is get caught up comparing yourself to your goal, right? So where do you need to be this quarter? That's the comparison. What activities do I need to make? That's the comparison. It's only the past. We say the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. We're not going to live in the past, but it's a reference point.
Right.
Kelly, we're getting close to wrapping this up, but I wrote a couple things down that I think describe you. Can I do this?
Okay.
Um, I think I think you've always been a lifelong learner.
Mhm.
So grow constantly is something that definitely would resonate with you, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Honesty and integrity. Like, I think
Mm.
your honesty and integrity is off the charts. I think you are very quick at building trust and rapport with the relationships in your life. Like, I don't think it takes you very long. You're either in or out with Kelly. I think you do a phenomenal job of building community. And there's a lot of people like this, but I think you thrive with positive words of appreciation. Who
Mhm.
doesn't like to hear, nice things? I think you have a zest for just experiencing life. Like, I think you like to, try new things, do things, travel, right? Go to
Absolutely.
restaurants. I see you as somebody who likes to manage and keep things under control for your clients, right? Like, so I picture you as like the pilot. If you're flying the plane, you're the one coming on and saying, "Hey, buckle up. There's going to be some turbulence." Um,
Right.
I think you influence others and you work hard. I think that there's some ingenuity into what you do. So I think there's a creative side that you help your clients go through. You've said this already, but I did write this down. Protect private time.
Absolutely.
If you were to write this down, and I'm sure you would come up with a similar list, but hopefully you can receive these flowers I'm sending you right now. Protecting your private time is something that is important to you. It's important to a lot of people, but when you're chasing being number
Mhm.
one and you're chasing an outcome, it's very hard to balance that private time. And so just because it's important to you, when there's an absence of that in your life, there's where burnout comes.
100%.
And I think the thing that really, really resonates with me is you came from a culture of, number one, and we're going to win at all cost. And there's definitely some good things that gave you, that mindset gave you. But one of the things that I've seen, and this is call this wisdom, call it experience, but I think a balanced perspective on what you want to accomplish.
Mhm.
You and I talked about peace of mind. Talk about that a little bit. First of all, did I get close on who I think Kelly is?
It's a long list.
It's longer, but I know we need it in the podcast at some point. I appreciate you.
No,
I appreciate you being on the team, and if you can talk about yourself a little bit as far as like peace of mind and what that's worth to you.
well, I think what you just said about the personal time is if you're somebody that's listening to this right now and you constantly are run down, tired, sick, everything like that, you don't have the right balance and maybe you're not where you should be because you're exactly right. Because I have balance now, Brad, is I'm better at all those things. I'm not great. I have 3 teenagers, so they'll tell me I'm not great at everything. But the fact that I have balance, it makes me a better businesswoman.
Mhm.
It makes me a better teammate. It gives the ability to be a better wife, a better mother, time with my faith. All those things happen now because I have that balance. Relationships, even before coming to the Noll team, is so important to me. It's something that was instilled in me very early on with my dad. And, we always talk about handwritten letters. We
Mhm.
talk about that all the time on our team because it's easy to send a text. It's fast and things. When you sit down and write a letter, and my dad, when I was a sophomore at Ball State, my dad wrote me the most beautiful letter. He didn't do it a lot. You know my dad, and he's a pretty quiet guy. I still have that letter. And one of the things he said at the very end is he said, "Don't ever forget the value of a handwritten letter." Now, mind you, this was back in the 90s. I went to the computer lab and it made all that crazy noise we didn't have that, but a handwritten letter. And so taking the time, when you take time and build those relationships with people, that is what's going to get you farther in this life. And it's not about money. Yes, we need money to survive. We need money to do the things we want to do. Absolutely. But most importantly is it's about the relationship. And if I can share just one quick story,
Mhm.
and this, I was referred a client November last year, very inexpensive condo,
Mhm.
probably the lowest one I've ever done. And the gentleman was a 30-year real estate agent from the East Coast. So he knew a lot more than I did. And he said, "I don't trust anybody." And I said, "Well, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to show you." So I went on to sell that condo, which led to listing a second condo for him, which led to him buying a house with him and now getting ready to list a fourth condo. And so when you take the numbers and the money thing out of it and you look at it strictly on the relationship that you have, here is something, like I said, the lowest price condo I've ever done, but it's the relationship that I built with him. And you better believe everywhere he goes, he has a stack of my business cards, and he wrote some of the nicest testimonials on my behalf. But it's building that relationship and building the relationship with the people you work with, your
Mhm.
team. That, like I said, I can reach out to anybody on our team. I love when they reach out to me. And as you and I know, when somebody on our team asks, "Hey, can somebody show this? Because I have a funeral, I have this," everybody jumps on immediately. And even if you can't, we communicate why we can't. And I think that is so special, that it's a pretty sacred thing about this team. And it makes me so proud of who we are.
Well, I think the thing that gets lost right now in youth sports, and we'll transition this to business, is nobody wants
Mhm.
to be a role player, right? Nobody wants to be a role
Right.
player because they think that they're like second class citizens, and I want to be the star. Well, if you think about it logically, the star is actually a role player also. If you're the
Mhm.
star and you have to score 25 points a game for your team to win, that's a role. And so
Right.
if we can just adopt this mindset, if you're on a team or you're trying to build a team or you want to join our team, we believe in role players. Everybody's a role player. Kelly, you have a role. I have a role. Every down the
Mhm.
down the list of everybody on our team. And I think that's what makes us unique is we understand those roles, and we understand it because we talk about it and we celebrate other people's roles. And so
Mhm.
one last question here, and you started to get to it, I think, with your dad a little bit and that special relationship, but what does winning at the game of life look like for Kelly Werth?
I think winning at the game of life is feeling at the end of the day that I wasn't perfect, because nobody's perfect,
Hmm.
but I made a difference in somebody's life that day.
Hmm.
And it might be a client, it might be a family member, a friend. It's just the little things that people do notice, and if you take the time to appreciate life and how lucky we all are for what we have, and not worry about what we don't have, and chasing somebody else's dream, that's winning at life. Because you alluded to it in a conversation we just had, was, there's always going to be somebody that's richer, there's always going to be somebody that drives a nicer car or makes more money, or has a bigger home and all those things, but are they happy? And at the end of the day, winning at life is happiness, and having those relationships and having those friendships that when things are tough, people are going to come out of the woodwork to surround you, and you know that you're loved.
Wow. That's awesome. Just in something you said, just for any realtor in our market that's listening, Kelly has more peace of mind, is healthier, spends more time with her family,
Mhm.
spends more time with her friends, and has a phenomenal business. If that's something you're looking for, you don't have to join our team, but I'll just tell you how to do it. So feel free to reach out. But we'd like for you to join our team if you're the right fit. But Kelly, you're experiencing all these things, and it's
Mhm.
awesome to see. And I don't know what I did to deserve a front row seat to you and watching you just be amazing. But I'm very grateful that I get to sit where I do. We believe relationships win, and you have echoed that same sentiment. And I believe not just because of our friendship, but because philosophically we agree on life and how business
Mhm.
should be ran. The kids say, "Give him or give her their flowers," meaning, who do you want to show some appreciation, some affection to? Who's somebody in your life you want to send some flowers to, some virtual flowers today?
Gosh, I have so many. I'm going to send you virtual flowers. Okay.
Receive it.
Like I said, you and I have talked for years, but your mentoring, your friendship has meant the world to me. And I'm glad that I took this leap of faith. I wish I would have done it 2 years ago, and we'd be sitting here talking about my 2 year anniversary, but everything happens for a reason, and timing is part of those reasons. So to you, to your wife, who's been very supportive to me, flowers to my husband, who both made two very big life changes within 6 weeks of each other a year ago with our careers. And he is always my support. He's always my rock. And I just love him with every piece of my heart.
I love Chuck.
So, yeah, Chucky.
That's all.
And then I think finally, just it's so hard because there's so many people. I mean, my friends and my family have all supported me through this process, and with all my fears, apprehensions about doing this and taking the leap of faith and betting on myself, I'm so thankful. So I'm going to send virtual flowers out to them too, because they know who stepped up when I was at my lowest points and got me to where I am today.
Wow. I receive them, and I know everybody listening does too. And so I hope you share this with all your friends so that they can actually hear you say that, because uh,
Well,
they need to, and they deserve it. It is so much fun doing business together. So I can't wait to have you back. This is a great episode. We're gonna have you back. We're gonna have you back, and we're
awesome.
just gonna keep talking about your growth, and and hopefully we can inspire some people to take that leap of faith, to take that risk, to bet on yourself, to answer the call. We talked
Hmm.
about this yesterday too. Is like, you don't learn as much when you win. You learn through adversity. You know, and,
Absolutely.
and I haven't loved the adversity in my life when I was going through it, but I can look back and I'm so thankful that I learned what I did going through it. And I do not
Hmm.
wish that my adversity in my life would be removed. And I definitely don't want to remove adversity from my kids. So thank you for your story. You're literally a queen, and like literal queen, pageant queen. But I just want to send you some more flowers again and just say you're a queen in this business. You're a queen on our team. Thank you so much for your dedication and your commitment, and just everything you bring. Our team is better because of you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a wrap. Relationships win. Go follow us on social media, and keep listening. Appreciate your support. Thanks for listening to Student of the Game podcast. Whatever game you are playing, I'm cheering for you. See you in the next class.